we are talking about Marvel Ultimate Alliance on the PS2.
Well,
which
one that I never fucking touched.
Never?
Unless we played it like a little bit, but
I mean, I think I have it on my PS4, so we could definitely play it if we wanted to.
we
But
played one of them. It was probably the new one though.
oh, the third one?
Yeah.
On the Switch.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one we played.
Yeah, so they in the early to mid 2000s, the only superheroes that were really household names on the Marvel side were the ones that had movies attached to them. So for DC, it was a little unfair. It's almost like I'm trying to think of like Sega versus Nintendo. Like at one point, a lot of people thought Sega was cooler because they had Sonic and they had Altered Beast and all of the cooler games. And then over time, Nintendo surpassed in
and
every
over time
way.
you realize that Sonic old games actually suck ass. So I don't know I don't know what the hell you guys were thinking.
We still have to talk about those games. But in kind of a similar way, there was a point where DC in the 90s dominated Marvel. So much so that Marvel Comics had to file for bankruptcy, or they almost filed for bankruptcy, and they had to sell the rights of their characters, their intellectual rights, to a lot of different companies. So Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, they were all household names. They were all names of superheroes that even your mom would know, right? You had the Tim Burton Batman movies. You had the Christopher Reeves Superman movies. And then when you thought superhero, those are the first people that you thought of. Flash forward to the late 90s, early 2000s. Marvel, who has sold their rights to some characters to different production companies, these characters of theirs start being put into the general public's conscience. So you had the X-Men movie that came out in the early 2000s with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You had Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, which belonged and still belongs to Sony right now. You had the Incredible Hulk, who is Universal. And so Marvel was finally starting to get back onto the scene. And in, I think, 2004, 2005 maybe, they made a game called Ultimate Alliance, which was essentially, for your reference, I would say it's essentially Nicktoons Unite, but with Marvel characters. Yeah. And I remember renting this game from Hollywood Video because my favorite superhero was Spider-Man. Still is. He's the fucking best. He's just one of the best superheroes of all time. Maybe even best fictional characters of all time, but that's a whole other thing. And so I played it, and obviously playing it alone is a lot less satisfying than playing it with 4 people, which it was meant for. But it's essentially a top-down sort of roguelike beat 'em up where you walk into a room, you beat a shit ton of enemies up, you have guard, you have special abilities for every character, you have unlockable costumes that you can get by, I think the first 3 are if you beat a certain amount of enemies as a character. So it's like if you kill 100 people, you get Spider-Man's like symbiote outfit. Or if you kill like 500 people, you get the Scarlet Spider, and they had the Iron Spider and all of these different costumes to unlock. And it was just your typical what the MCU is trying to do right now, where I think one of the final enemies is Kang. I think you fight Galactus at some point. Dr. Doom is the final bad guy, because of course he is. And it's just a trek through all of Marvel's notorious settings, and you get to interact with a lot of characters. In one version of the game, Ego Raptor voiced Bruce Banner, I think in like the Wii version.
Weird.
A little weird, but we love Ego Raptor. And yeah, dude, it just like, it introduced me to a lot of superheroes that I otherwise would never have heard of. Did you know that Black Panther was a playable character in those games? And like, he was so far from having his own movie. I think he had a show on MTV once, or BET. I forget, one of those two. Then there was it introduced me to like Iron Man was one of the main characters who at the time was like a C-list Marvel character. They had Spider-Woman, they had Captain Marvel, who had like a Ms. Marvel costume. And yeah, dude, and there's just a lot of characters that are like way more popular now that just weren't at the time because they didn't have movies, they didn't have TV shows. Oh yeah, Doctor Strange. I didn't know who Doctor Strange was until I played the game and I saw he was a mystical master of the mystical fighting arts or whatever. They 100% had Elektra. They had Daredevil. I don't think you'd put Elektra in any game now, but at the time she had her own movie and she was in the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck.
Yep. Yeesh.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And it's just a fun time. It's for people who are fans of Marvel now, it's kind of a fun throwback to get to see all these characters interact with each other pre-MCU. Yeah, certain characters have specific voice lines. Like if there's a level where you get sent to, not hell, you do get sent to hell at some point, but you have to fight Mephisto in his realm, and part of hell is like a circus. So if you go into the circus with a party that has like Blade and Ghost Rider and like the Midnight Sun characters, you'll end up interacting with certain enemies with unique voice lines because you're playing with, you know, Johnny Blaze or whatever. And it had so much replay value because like,
dude, when they gonna bring Ghost Rider back, man?
He's so cool. I love Ghost Rider,
man.
He was my favorite.
Like they brought him in like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. like cameo and like that was it.
No, I mean that was
man.
That was I forget. Robbie
Multiverses. Bring the Cajun, man. Bring him in. Let's go,
dude. I would pay good money to see Nick Cage as Johnny Blaze one last time.
Bring him in.
Yeah, dude. Have you that? Well, that's a different subject, but yeah, Ghost Rider. He was one of my like or I guess after Spider-Man, when his movie came out, I fucking loved Ghost Rider. Like I would get figurines of Ghost Rider, and I just liked fire at the time. I might have grew up to be an arsonist if I didn't discover music, but I was very into fire type Pokemon. I was into fire centric superheroes. And it was just cool. But now I'm much more chill of a guy. I like water types. Scorpio's a water sign, you know, so I like the beach. But anyway, that's getting off topic. Yeah, they made a couple of Ultimate Alliance games after that. They released DLC for the first one exclusively on PS3 and Xbox 360 that added Venom, I think. I don't think the Hulk was in the original game. I think they added the Hulk in the DLC too. And then they had a second game, which people didn't like as much. And it essentially killed the franchise because all of the new character designs were whack, and it was, I think, based off Civil War, like the original run of Civil War. And then years later, I remember being at the midnight release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I was in a GameStop for a couple hours because we were waiting till the end of the night to pick up the game. But the Game Awards were happening at that time. And they showed off the trailer for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and I got so giddy inside. I was already giddy because I was picking up Super Smash Brothers, but when I watched the trailer for the third one, it just brought up all of these memories of playing the first one alone in my room on the PS2. So, yeah, man, maybe once I settle in to my new place, you can come and start a campaign of Marvel Ultimate Alliance and see how you like it. And then maybe we can, you know.
That's a top-down games are a hurdle for me, man.
It's
Baldur's Gate 3 might be a masterpiece, but I'm sorry, I'm never touching it because I hate top-down.
This one feels a little. I think it feels a little better, at least from what I remember. So we'll have to see. But as far as superhero games go on my list, that is the last one. So I mean, I guess I had Ultimate Spider-Man right before this.